Hey everyone, we've already done our top 10 films of 2026 so far. Right now, we're about to hit our top 10 worst films of 2026 so far. So, as of right now, these are the worst films of 2026 at this point. It is July 7th, 2026. Like I previously mentioned in my top 10 video, I've seen 62 films in theaters slash streaming services this year and this year alone. So we're going to get started with our list. Starting with our first honorable mention, Star Wars: The Mandalorian and Grogu. This wasn't it. This was not a Star Wars movie. There were a small amount of scenes, especially that first part, that actually felt like it was Star Wars. Outside of that, it felt like a season of The Mandalorian compressed into roughly 2 hours. Completely pass on this movie. It's not even worth it. My next honorable mention is a Netflix movie. It's called War Machine. This is basically two different movies rolled in one. The first half of the movie is actually pretty solid film that talks about a service member and the sacrifices that they make. However, as soon as it gets to the second half of the movie, it loses everything. It loses all steam whatsoever. And it turns into this alien sci-fi action movie. And if you kept with the first half of the movie, it would have been a really good movie. I think it would have been a lot higher on my list. But they went and they jumped the shark with War Machine. So those are my honorable mentions.
Number 10.
My number 10 movie is Mike and Nick and Alice. This is a interesting concept of the movie, how it basically has a time traveling effect, but it was poorly directed and wrote. It has a great cast in there. You have James Marsden, Vince Vaughn. There were funny scenes as well, especially with Gilmore Girl jokes and whatnot, but ultimately its fate was sealed. As it is a streaming movie, it just didn't hit the mark. It was a dumb streaming comedy. Yes, it was a streaming movie, so you kind of give it a little grace, but it still didn't hit the mark.
Number 9.
At number 9, we have Mercy, starring Chris Pratt. This movie feels like it was taken from the same cloth as the 2025 War of the Worlds with Ice Cube. It is a huge AI-driven movie talking about the roles from a screen. Chris Pratt is very one note through about 90% of this movie. And then at the end, he finally decides to act. He finally decides to try to earn his paycheck in the last 5 minutes, where he tries to show some form of emotion. The mediocre reveal at the end ultimately gave it a slight upgrade, but it was still a bad movie.
Number 8.
At number 8, this is a super campy, cheesy, B-rated movie, The Yeti. Personally, I really wanted to love this movie. Looking at the concepts and everything, it looked interesting. However, this movie just failed to hit the mark for me. It had funny moments in it, but for the most part, it was still boring, and you can kind of see everything happening a mile away.
Number 7.
At number 7, Markiplier fans, go ahead and hate me. Say what you want in the comments, but my 7th worst movie of 2026 was Iron Lung. It had an interesting concept, but it was poorly executed. When you're looking at everything, the atmosphere is supposed to feel claustrophobic, yet it seemed very open spaced. The writing was extremely weak, especially during the dialogue aspects. The direction was extremely sloppy, especially with the last act in the movie, where you are going in. It basically looked like you threw a camera in a washing machine, turned the lights off, threw some red paint in there, and decided to go on spin cycle. Markiplier himself, though, is not that good of an actor outside of the aggressive scenes. When he's being aggressive, yes, he does show that emotion. He shows that actual ability to act. But when he's just nonchalantly throughout the sub, it's very dry and it's very monotone.
Number 6.
At number 6, we have The Haunting of Matthew Nichols. This is a found footage style documentary horror movie that just was not it. The whole documentary aspect was extremely boring, and you can see it 2 to 3 steps ahead of what they were doing. And then once they get to the end, they go in a full Blair Witch style, which did not hit the mark whatsoever. Ultimately, this was a dud. I don't know what else to say about it.
Number 5.
At number 5, this was one of the most recent movies that I've seen, and this was Supergirl. This movie had so much potential behind it. This movie was basically holding on to the cape of Superman, and it had that leap moving forward. I didn't think Superman was a fantastic movie. I thought it was a really good movie. Supergirl, though, outside of Millie Alcock's acting, and Jason Momoa basically being Jason Momoa as Lobo, this is a forgettable movie. The writing is horrendous. The directing is horrendous. The acting, for the most part, is horrendous. Hell, the villain is super forgettable. If it wasn't for our 2 main stars in this movie, this would be farther down on my list.
Number 4.
At number 4, we have Greenland 2 Migration. I actually enjoyed the first Greenland movie. It was a very big doomsday style movie. However, Greenland 2 is an absolutely boring movie for a disaster movie. It's supposed to be a disaster movie. However, the disaster of this movie was sitting through the movie. The script is weak. The tension is lacking. The storyline is very predictable. And the emotional range is absolutely not there. This movie is a mess.
Number 3.
At number 3, I had a lot of hype for this movie, especially with the teaser trailer that they showed, and that is Passenger. This movie's whole thing is the first 5 minutes. The first 5 minutes was the teaser that they were showing in theaters leading up to the movie. After that, this movie falls apart so fast. The acting, terrible. The direction, god awful. The writing is not even there. I was so bored out of my mind during this movie. I kept on just looking at my watch going, do I really need to be sitting through this? Unfortunately, I did sit through this. I reviewed it. It's not a good movie at all. However, if Passengers was not a good movie, there was clearly 2 more movies that were worse than that. And I mean, they were worse than that.
Number 2.
And we're talking about Psycho Killer. What the hell did we watch? This is an atrocity of a movie. The script is extremely predictable. The acting is subpar. And the voice James Preston Rogers was using was absolutely ridiculous. That it came off as over the top and super cartoony. I could not take any of this seriously. It is a hard pass. Do not waste your time, money, or effort watching Psycho Killer. It is one of the worst movies of 2026.
Number 1.
However, that means that we have one movie that is worse than Psycho Killer. And if you've seen it, you know exactly what I mean. And this is Slanted. This is a absolute horrendous movie that tries a new approach to systematic racism and racism as a whole. It is a woman who does not like being Asian and wants to turn herself white. It claims to be a body horror. However, the body horror aspect is very minimal in this. You basically have like 10 minutes in there in the third act. Ultimately, as of right now, mid-year, this is by far the worst horror movie and the worst movie of 2026. Can it get dethroned? We still have 6 more months to find out. So this is my worst movies of 2026. Obviously, I'd love to hear from you. What was the worst film that you've seen that was released this year? And what does your rankings look like? And obviously, I know some of y'all are going to have differences about my rankings. So please explain to me why those movies should be higher up. And if you really enjoyed this content, go ahead and hit that like, as I really do appreciate it. And if you like, go ahead and share it out. But if you enjoy this content and you want to see more of this kind of content or other content that I've been posting, go ahead and subscribe.